I do hope you've enjoyed How to Kill a Cloud, and please now give a big virtual welcome to the filmmaker Tuija Haltunen. And she's speaking here from Finland, and I know she would very much have loved to have been in Sydney to present the film. Welcome.
Thank you.
A few questions following up on the film. Hanil, the scientist in the film, is so passionate, and she's a really fascinating character. How did you first hear about her? And was it hard to get her to agree to make the film?
I first heard about her via radio science program, where I heard that she had gotten the very big grant from United Arab Emirates to manipulate the clouds and make it rain there. And then I approached her, I called her, and we met next day, and she was in immediately. She had some limitations. She wanted to give, like, not to show her private life, and it was okay for me because I didn't want to show that much of that, but the work of hers. So, yeah. So it didn't take too long to convince her.
And it's a film about a woman in a very male world. Was that a subject that also appealed to you?
Well, at first I was fascinated only about clouds, but then since I didn't find any POV for that, I kind of forgot it. But when I heard about Hannele, I immediately kind of was lured in, and it was a big plus that she was a woman, because when I realized the situation, her being a woman in a very male-dominant science branch of science, it was very clear for me that I wanted to make the film. So I didn't look for a female protagonist, but I was very happy when she happened to be a woman, because it was so much more fascinating for me to make the film like that.
And did you see parallels with your experience working in the film industry, which is often considered a very male-dominated industry as well?
I did see many parallels to film work. Not only that the females have to kind of prove themselves much more, but also that the financing is very hard, the competition is very hard, and the passion towards your work is similar, that you do it with your soul. The scientists do it as well. And also I, as a documentary filmmaker, want to make a world a better place, and I truly believe that she wants it too. So I found very many parallels. And also, of course, this thing that she runs a big, she's a chief of a big crew, and in a very male dominant world. So yeah, yes.
And were there particular challenges and obstacles making the film in the United Arab Emirates, not just as a woman, but as a filmmaker, as a Finnish filmmaker, traveling to the UAE and making the film there?
Yeah, well, I think the most difficult part was kind of getting the access. It took almost a year after we have decided to make the film, or trying to make it. So I really had to write dozens of emails, never getting any answers, or so on and so forth. So the access was quite tricky. But when we were there were, of course, some kind of, the regulations are much more different than in Finland, where we can shoot everywhere on the streets and so on and so forth. It's very different there. We were only allowed to shoot in places that we had to inform in beforehand, like a month beforehand, and always we had the fixer who had to kind of be our overcoat or check our where we were shooting at, and they were looking at the lenses all the time, and the compositions and so forth when we were out there. And the permits were very strict, and we were interrupted a few times by the secret police, and they checked our papers and so forth. But when we were in the premises of the science world, that wasn't so tricky, because I think also the UAE team of the program were on our side, or they wanted us to make the film. So they even helped us when we were trying to organize the shootings. So they were very helpful, and we were kind of allowed to get in many places with their help. Of course, I understand that there were times I had to be like some kind of detective, trying to find out what they are doing. And when I found out, then I could go and ask, can we join? So they weren't that helpful in that sense, that they would have come to me and said, we are going to do this and this and this, which is often a case when you are making a documentary. But I had to all the time ask, what are you doing? What is the next step? So we had to kind of adjust the call sheets every day, many times and so forth. But it's filmmaking. So yeah, it was a different experience than a Scandinavian democracy, you know.
And I mean, it's for a science film, science is kind of at the heart of it. It's a really kind of, you dive right into it. It's very easy to kind of get into the science. But was it hard to find a balance between the science aspect and the storytelling and the characters?
Yes, it was. And from the beginning, it was clear to me that I didn't want to make a classical science film as we think of science films. I more wanted to kind of study the ambiguity of the morals and ethics and power and so forth. So, but I knew that we had to deal with science somehow and explain what they are doing there, even if the kind of the core of the film is something else than the science. It's just the human being struggling with the integrity or ambition. So yes, it was very, very tricky. And in the editing room, we did have many different versions where we had, in the beginning, I didn't want to give any science, but then I understood, well, people have to understand something. So we just had to cut it in the way that we kind of made the science plot, or how do you say it, and at first, so it would be as clear as possible. And it was tricky in that sense also, that the science they are doing is very kind of top level science, very difficult, top physics and so on. So it's very hard to understand for common people. And even if I sat there for hours for listening to them, it took me, I didn't get even the tiny part of the idea. So yeah, it was very tricky.
And so the ethics, that kind of questioning about what they were doing, that was there at the very beginning. Did it surprise you what the path that took? Did you think there would be such differences of opinion?
It didn't surprise me. I kind of I'm a realistic person, and I do think that when a country, any country, releases this giant of a program, they are giving out millions and millions of US dollars. So they do have some kind of expectations from the scientists. I think the big surprise was for our main character, that it's not only about science but something else as well. So I was not surprised. I was waiting for that.
I think that's very, yes, the journey that the scientist takes is really fascinating. You can see that her belief in almost like a pure science, and then her understanding as it comes, is beautifully handled. Did the process of making the film make you change the way you looked at rain enhancement and clouds in general?
Clouds in general, yes, because I learned a lot about them. I think they are amazing phenomena, and we should really cherish them. But I didn't know that much about the rain enhancement in beforehand, so I did learn about a lot about it. And maybe something that surprised me was that how sorry, I have to concentrate a bit. That when it comes to cloud or rain enhancement and cloud manipulation, many of the scientists say when I ask that well, it may not probably do anything up there because the atmosphere is such a big scale, and it's a chaos up there, and it's such a big system. And on the other hand, say, well, actually, we don't know. It may affect. And we don't know if it affects the neighboring countries or if it affects the whole atmosphere. And that they are doing it anyway, that was kind of surprising for me. But then when I kind of pondered it through, I understood that it's in our nature, our human nature, trying to understand the phenomena of the nature and even to control them. So we cannot kind of stop that. We are that kind of a species. We just do it. So yeah, maybe it surprised me a bit about the rain enhancement that how much they are relying on that to solve the water shortage problems down there.
Yeah. I was thinking if you had been able to come to Sydney, we could have had a discussion about the clouds in Australia and whether they were very different from the clouds in Finland. Obviously, worldwide, there are poems and books and songs. Are there particular stories or legends about clouds in Finland?
Actually, there aren't that many. I really, that is a nice thing you brought up, because I really tried to find as many legends and stories about clouds and poems and etc. as I could, because I wanted to use something there in the film. In the end, I didn't use any, but I think they kind of gave me the general atmosphere for the voiceover, the narrator. But I don't think there are that many in Finland. We have a lots of rain here in Finland. We could give some away. So, well, we do have some. Well, we have something about not a legend, but kind of phrase about rain. But it's a bit rude, so I won't repeat it.
Okay, that's fine. Well, I just wonder, what do you hope that Australian audiences will take away from this film? What would you like them to think about after they leave the cinema?
At first, I think I really tried to make a film that would give a cinematic experience as whole, as a story and images and the sound-wise. So it's very important for me to, because film is such a lovely device to give that immersive experience to the film, the world of the film. So that is my hope, that they are kind of being in that different reality. But then it's very important for me that people could kind of give or get some kind of devices to make them think their own choices, their own integrity, not that much thinking of what I'm trying to say, but give a push for themselves to think about their values and how they see the world. And that is very important for me, not to give answers, but kind of give questions and devices to think and kind of tickle people's minds so that they see something and they would start to think. And of course, I would like them to see the sky differently, the clouds, because yes, they are enabling our lives, and the atmosphere is so important for us, and so kind of cherish and value the clouds.
That's a lovely thought to end on. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your film. We're so proud to have screened it in the Sydney Film Festival, and we really look forward to seeing your next one, and hopefully you in Sydney someday.
Oh, I really hope for that. And thank you, Jenny, for the nice chat.
Thank you.